So Shawn's been a customer of Murray's for many, many years.
For a long time. I believe we bought your summer home.
That's appreciated.
I'm expecting a thank you card from the wife. I still haven't received one.
We'll talk to her about it. So Shawn actually has been a customer since I believe it was 62nd Street. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely.
So we had a store on 9th Avenue and 62nd Street in Miami. Company was started in 1939. The store we were on 62nd Street. We continued to move west until we built a building on 9th Avenue and 62nd Street, and we shut that one down probably about '85 when we moved into the North Miami location. And Shawn was obviously there.
I used to live in Fort Lauderdale, so you were like the most convenient in the place that had everything we were looking for. You know, back in the day, that was Gremlins and such, and hopping and popping them all up. Novas, getting frame connectors.
Yeah, all types of different products. So today I'm in Shawn's garage and I'm looking at a asphalt open wheel modified, a dirt open wheel modified, a new Camaro. But that's a 71 Chevelle.
Split turn signal.
Yeah. And
that's a 29 Model A frame with a 30 cab on it.
So you've had a lot of cars over the years.
Yeah, there's a few I regret getting rid of. A C10 short bed. That was already tubbed. That was pretty bad. Was when we were building this garage, which is also known as the PMS shelter, raising 2 daughters and a wife. You know, it was a place for me to get some solace. But yeah, I've been racing. Well, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and racing on the backcountry roads. Stupid things like turning your headlights off, coming up to a hairpin that you know is there to make sure nobody else is coming the other way. Stupid things like that. But finally got mature about it and got on a track, and stopped endangering myself and others. It's basically, thank God I didn't have the life lesson personally myself, but you could see it in others experiencing it, and it was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, as we always do, take it to the track, keep it off the street.
Absolutely.
You raced, I believe you're coming into the store, and I remember selling you parts for, I believe it was a street stock?
No, that would basically probably be the Chevelle.
Not this Chevelle, I'm talking about Miami location.
Oh, Miami, no.
Yeah, the Hialeah days.
Hialeah, we were buying a lot of mini stock stuff
Okay.
at first. We were getting, the 4412s, the Hollies. There were certain Weisco pistons we were obtaining, all kinds of stuff. Like I said, you had everything in different realms. We were able to obtain parts to pop and hop everything we were putting our ass in, basically. And then I don't know if you remember the truck, I believe it was called No Problem, was one of those big monster trucks that first started coming around. I remember them utilizing you also to get performance parts.
Yeah, all genres. And we'll be doing a segment on just about everything you could imagine as we go through doing this. We enjoy doing this.
Yeah, it's a shame though that recently a lot of our tracks are closing, and it endangers a lot of people on the street every day. Some of the stuff you see on reels, and you got to wonder, is this real or AI? And you're looking at it, and you somehow get confirmed that it is real, and you just, why are we closing tracks? But yet, we're still got soccer fields everywhere, and baseball fields, softball fields. And we have a lot of grassroots racers here in our area that have made it big from the grassroots racing. And I never understood during the entire battle for the land grab by the owners of, I call it Moroso, Palm Beach Raceway. And that's how old I am. It's,
Dave Rupp era, take it back from before Moroso.
And I just don't see the future is EV. This place could be at one point a research and development site that you could combine, like they're doing in Indy, I believe now. They're combining the batteries with the combustion engine and using it as a boost or whatnot. I've been so busy at work I haven't had a moment to see any of it, but the little glimpses I've caught, I see a little battery there and it's disappearing as they're going on their final lap. So there's a lot of things that could have been done with that track. In my eyes, it was always a historic site.
Well, the feeling on the track and everything of mine is you can see the county spends huge amount of money at the baseball fields, the golf courses, and everything else, but they can't step up and do something for a racetrack. Although they've offered a couple times, and hopefully something will come through, whether it's there, 20 Mile Bend, or someplace else. But we'll see what happens. What they're missing on is the amount of revenue that it actually generates between, shops like mine, but also the amount of revenue it generates for tourism and people coming in here all the time. Look at Hialeah, look at what that used to generate down there.
That place, racing there for years. Never won a feature at Hialeah, a bunch of seconds and thirds. I don't remember, I believe possibly a second overall for the season. The kids were getting older, so we're doing trips with them with band and whatnot, so I'm missing weeks through the season. But the crowds were insane. I'm sure concession and gate were quite healthy. I remember one night we were racing and somebody, I guess, didn't want to pay entry but had a bucket truck. So they were in their bucket truck over out of turn 3 and 4. And the caution red flag flies. This guy had fallen out of the bucket truck on turn 3 and 4. So, I remember them being lined up forever. Even what is New Hendry County Motorsports Park now, out below Moorhaven, the dirt track that we're going to be running a lot at. Years ago, before I went, or when Hialeah closed and we went there, the place was packed. It was full of people. And now when we go, I hope to see, half the stands filled. And that's a hopeful thought. And we got to remember that if we do get a track, we got to support it. We've got to go, and we've got to, give it the attention that it deserves, so that the people that are running it can sustain it, and make some coin. That's the whole idea of everything. I don't go out and dig ditches in the Florida sun because I feel good about doing it. I feel good that I'm supporting my family and such, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
So with obviously all the racing that you've done over the years, how has that transferred over into digging ditches, etc.?
Into real life?
Into real life.
Well, probably if I didn't get caught up in racing, I would have been in a lot of trouble. As a youth, I had to file a college education tuition on tickets and stupidity. My youngest daughter got her first ticket. My mother brought a file over. I don't know, some of you might know what an SR22 is, but that was required. A bunch of D6s. But, I would have just gotten into more trouble on the street and possibly hurt somebody. And the things that I've learned, the disciplines, there's one thing, you can go to a track, you can leave your trailer open, you can probably leave your wallet on the table in the trailer. I've never had a single thing stolen while at a racetrack.
The guy next to you will give you a battery or give you a caliper or give you whatever you need to help, and you could be racing him in at the end. Yeah,
it's reciprocal, and if he puts you in the wall with your battery, it's still your battery at the end of the night if it's still good.
Right. A lot of good friends made.
Yes.
Lifetime friends.
And that's the camaraderie in the pits, and just people that you enjoy seeing and spending time with, and still yelling at each other, but yet the next day or the next week you're friends again. I've had that happen over the years many times. Had a on-track battle with an individual down in Hialeah. I was the new kid, and there was probably 28 of us at that time. There was a bunch of us. And one of the leading guys decided to cut the right front of my car off in the feature when I was leading, and put him to the back. He came up, did it again, and we're going down the front straightaway, just about flag stand. He come up to do it again, and I sent him backwards into the wall, myself head on into the wall. But at that point, I didn't care, because if I didn't push back, I was going to get run over every single weekend. And I remember the fans, because he was a popular individual. I'm a new boy. I don't go, I'm not from Hialeah. And they were climbing the fence, literally, screaming at me, "You effed up now, you screwed up." I'm sitting there in the car, I look over at him, and he's out cold, and I'm like, I don't think I'll ever have a problem with him again. Ran into him after Hialeah closed, New Smyrna. "Hey, how are you?" Everything's golden. It's a racing thing. Push me, shove you. I'm going to be there going for the win, and I try to do it as clean as I possibly can. But you start pushing and roughing up on me, I'll send you home.
Okay, that's kind of the name of the game. So some of the things that, I remember you were in the store the other day and you were complaining about having to go get parts and everything for your backhoe, because you work on all your own equipment now. Am I correct in saying
I've
that?
maintained all our Bobcats, track hose, and the majority of the stuff. Of course, they have the intellectual property on a Bobcat locked down if there's a computer issue. I'm kind of screwed, glued, and tattooed at that point. But for the most, hydraulic rams and all that, definitely doing all that work.
So, if you weren't racing, would you be fixing?
No, and as far as fixing and tinkering, my brother's 2 years older than me. When he was in kindergarten, he'd come home looking for his two-wheeler because I was already out riding it. Probably by the time I was 6, I was cutting, you know, on a swing set, you have the A-frame, right? And you have the crossbar. Well, those two ends were flattened, and it caught my attention. So I took one off a swing set, and I cut it in half with my dad's hacksaw, and I drove it up on the forks of my bicycle, and then put the tire back on, and it fit perfect. I was making choppers out of regular bicycles. My mechanical ability has always been there. Actually, I can't sit in one place all day long. It just, working at dealerships and such, and you know, other franchises, reporting to the same place every day was a problem for me, and that's probably why I didn't do well in school. You know, I've got to have variances in my day and in my week. So yeah, when I'm on a job for 2-3 weeks, I can tell that I'm tired of coming here.
I guess that's why you get your jobs done quick.
Absolutely.
Helps,
and efficient and proper.
Efficient and properly. So obviously with the racing and everything, that has also helped you with the efficiencies of having to do things. You have a certain amount of time to get back out there between races.
Oh God, yeah.
You know?
I mean...
So that's obviously carried over into work.
Probably, you know, one of the biggest skills, Mark, that you're going to learn if you're going to be out racing any type like this, welding. You're going to learn that real quick.
Right.
You know? Yeah, there's been so many aspects of my life that have been touched by racing. You know, family, it comes first. I remember my wife, my kids were, like I said, raised in the stands of Hialeah Raceway. And I believe on our way home one night, my wife says, "You're never going to sell my wedding ring or pawn my wedding ring, are you?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" We're running a mini stock division. I guess some women that were in the bleachers with her, the woman said that they had just pawned their wedding ring for a late model event for the next week.
Yeah, those are some of my customers. I could remember a lot of times when guys would come in saying that they need to win this weekend so they have food to put on the table, and so they're busy buying stuff to make it happen. It's a pretty addictive sport.
Yeah, but you know, you got it. You know, that's one thing is, you know, we start a race the first lap and it's like everybody's on the final lap at Daytona. It's like the mentality on that aspect of racing has been there almost the entire time. Yes, you want to lead the lap. Yes, you want to win, but you're not winning it on the first lap. You know, you've got to learn patience. You know, and we have so many young kids that come in with no wallet invested, you know, no sweat and tears, or battles with the wife. You know, and they just hammer you, and you wonder, you know, why are they learning on my wallet? You know, you got to say at one point, you know, they've got to take responsibility for their actions on the track.
Well, it's just like taking the reactions and, you know, taking part of what they're doing in regular life. You know, you have to,
exactly.
Everything you have to be accountable for what you're doing, you know. And it's not only racing, it's within everything you do in life. You do something stupid, you're going to have to pay the price.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just the way it is. But,
and, you know, I enjoy it so much. It's been my stress reliever. I gave up drinking, I don't know, 33 years ago or whatnot. And that's the thing. You have to have some type of disposable income to do this. And to have a disposable income, you have to bust your ass Monday through Friday to get there. Even Saturday and Sunday. You know, having my own business, my family has sacrificed more for the business than they ever did for racing.
I can tell you about that.
So you know, going in, I remember early on working at the Chevrolet dealer in Lake Worth, and working there, coming home, coaching softball for 2 different leagues, running over to a warehouse that I rented, doing work to make extra income. And this was before I started digging ditches for a living. And then the opportunity came around for me to be like a handyman deal part-time. Then I went and worked for a landscaper full-time. I left the dealership. He called me up in my bay one day and gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, because some people don't understand flat rate in a dealership. If they say, okay, take this engine out and put this factory spec one back in, they're going to pay you 10 and a half hours, but in reality, it takes you 15 hours to do it. You're still only getting paid 10 and a half hours. So you could be there for a 60-hour week and you take home a 35, 40-hour paycheck. So,
and vice versa.
Right, but that's very rare because the guys that set the E-time have all their tools laid out on a cart or a bench. They have their parts there, so they're not sitting at the parts counter waiting to even get to the counter. You know, and then you get all your tools accumulated and go through the process, and then not to mention the car owner's crap that's in your way, and you know, stuff that's been altered throughout time. You know, it's just a lot of hard work goes into being able to race, and if it stops being enjoyable because it's costing you too much money, that's what's happened to me recently. I call them non-drivers. I've been guilty of situations, you know, growing up and learning, but it just seems to be a little bit more frequent. And I pulled back a little bit, focused a little more on getting cars set up better, so when I go, hopefully I can be up front and avoid any of the incidents. That's the plan.
Always want to avoid that.
You know, so, but yeah, I mean, it's still enjoyable to me. There is no better rush than coming out of the corner at last lap and you're battling to, I don't care if it's for 5th place or 1st place, you still have that same mentality of, I'm going to get ahead of this guy, and you're trying everything you can. I always love picking people off. I absolutely love starting in the back. But lately that hasn't worked out very well, coming through the field. But I'm hoping to get back at it real soon and get back on the track. I'm not even sure when our next race at Hendry County is, but that's where we'll be heading.
So you got to travel.
Yeah, it's, you know, when I first bought this house that I'm in 25 maybe plus years ago, Moroso at that time was entertaining putting in a circle track. The gentleman I bought the house from even left a rule book, I believe it was, on the counter. I believe I have it here somewhere. For street stock, I believe it was.
Yeah, they were talking about it.
And then I believe the county wanted them to widen the B line because the powers that be at Moroso wanted to utilize it, emulate it as a track on the NASCAR circuit and rent it out for testing, which brought more people and more traffic. And then they said, no, we're not going to do that because we're not going to spend X millions on widening the B line. I had spoke to Lori Moroso a couple times, and I told her when Hialeah closed, I said, everybody is driving past you to go race in a stock car. They're going to New Smyrna, Volusia, Ponta Gorda. They're going right past you. And she said, my marketing analysts say it's not a viable situation. I said, you should get new marketing analysts. Because you went out there, I don't know if you remember, you go out there and they had the mud bogs and whatnot. That place was absolutely jammed, wall to wall, parked down the B line. I mean, you had to walk in if you didn't get there early enough. That place was packed.
Well, it was packed for not only the mud bogs, it was packed for the drag race and the road racing wasn't as packed by any means, but that's a different clientele.
The wine and cheese crowd and the beer and nuts.
Yep.
You know, so totally.
But they all are renting rooms and spending money in local, businesses.
Absolutely. I mean, even if it's stopping at the gas stations, getting ice and sodas and beers or whatever, there's local money being spent everywhere. Some of the big national events that they had, I was very fortunate that I was able to get into situations over there. The Top Fuel Funny cars, when they had that test session.
Every year they did that.
Right. And, it was just so nice to be able to go there. I live within, I can hear them.
Yes.
I can hear the road course cars. I mean, that's how close. I'm probably like maybe 7 minutes away from the track. if that. I could probably shoot a 22 to it. But I love that sound. You know, some people that live a little closer to me, they actually experience more Walmart traffic and the depots out there for the distribution centers than they do. Now there's no track noise, and all they probably hear is the semis and the loaders.
Oh, they're hearing Pratt and Whitney is what they're really hearing all the time.
Well, Pratt, we hear that too. You know, it's in they haven't been firing off much lately, but that doesn't bother me either. You know,
Well, the whole thing is when you moved out here, you knew it was
right.
there. So it's just like anybody moving out near a racetrack or near an airport, you know it's going to be noisy. Don't complain that it's too noisy when you know it was here before you.
Well, also back when I moved here originally, there was a track proposed out of Pratt Whitney and Indiantown. It was a motorsports complex, and it was going to support ATV. I don't think side-by-side was very popular at that time or even around.
I don't think it existed at that time.
So it was ATV, dirt bike, dirt track, and I believe an asphalt track, and go-kart. I believe it was all approved. The SOB I bought the house from left a petition on the counter along with the Moroso's rule book that I believe the people in Jupiter Farms were misled, and it's only for professional racers and all this. I went to meetings. You know, it's like, no, this is not professional racers. This is to take your kids off the dirt roads and the back roads here from hitting a tree and going on a track and going full out and enjoying themselves. And it faded away. I don't know whatever happened to that. But yeah, I don't know if that was Martin County approved. No, that would still be Palm Beach County.
So why didn't you explain the difference between dirt and oval track in the cars? What's the basic differences in the cars?
Well,
so everybody understands it.
Dirt cars, you're riding on 3 tires and hoping to get the left front to touch the ground. The roll cages on the both cars are tubular, but their substructure on the asphalt car is box, and everything on the dirt car is tubular. The dirt car also has points in it where it flexes and twists, where on the asphalt car it's pretty rigid, and you use your springs and your sway to make a 4-wheel, slide out of the corner under control. Where the dirt car, I absolutely love driving dirt. It reminds me of snow driving in Pennsylvania, but you're out of control, under control. The ascent is almost in front of you, and you're looking this way to go forward. It's just, and then you snap out onto the straightaway. That's almost like skiing and hitting a powder turn. You know, you just pop and you go. But I hate cleaning the car. But no, the dirt car, the transmission is 4-bar rear with a pull bar in the center of the diff. The asphalt car is only got 2-link with a rigid bar on the center of the diff connected to the frame. So even just rolling through the pits in the dirt car, you'll see the rear end hike up because the center line of the axle changes on the rotation of the bars, and your differential and your pinion gear, go from negative to almost positive. It's just there's that much walk in the differential on a dirt car. The asphalt car will walk, but it will not walk anything like a dirt car. Very hard learning curve to drive. I believe it was Nationals 2, maybe 3 years ago. I never remember the guy's name. He was all the stunts for the energy drink and such. But he came and raced in the open wheel modified on dirt, and he had mastered rally and everything else he's ever touched. And he said it was a very difficult learning curve.
And you still have been learning.
I was glad to see that his times were a little bit better than mine, but it wasn't, completely embarrassing at that point. But yeah, definitely going from the mini stock, leaf spring rear end, asphalt and dirt, to this 4-link rear end with the way it rolls center, it's a definite learning curve. We went out for a test session And a good friend of mine, Bob Kirkin, he's actually Buzzy Rudiman. He's 84, I believe, just a couple weeks ago or last week. Still driving open wheel modifieds. The man's a legend. His son, some of you might know, is David Rudiman. He ran in NASCAR for a while. But it's just, I lost myself where I was going.
Talking about the differences in the cars.
Yeah, but I was bringing Bob into it for what?
Buddy Rubin, Dave Rubin?
No. We'll have to edit that out.
Okay, that's what they call editing.
Right. So, with the dirt car, we used to use scales on the dirt cars. Now, everybody's using these pull bars and such like that. And Bob, with Buzzy Rudiman, I went to the test session, and we go out the first session, and I'm garbage. I'm just out to lunch, and I come in, and Bob says to me, he goes, "Stop turning." I said, "What the chuck do you mean, stop turning?" I'm right, left, and that's how I've always dove into a corner with a dirt track car, is you right, left that thing and slam it in there and drive it through. He goes, "The car will turn." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm going to go and hammer balls out down the straightaway, and you're telling me if I burp that throttle and hammer it down, it's going to go?" He goes, "Yeah." So I go out, apprehensive here, and I see what he's talking about. And then we had another session, and then we were closing it down, and the flagman and the guy who runs the track comes down, and I don't know what adjustments you made on the car, but man, it got a hell of a lot better. It's like, didn't do a damn thing to the car.
Did something to the driver.
All these years, at that point, I had probably already been racing 31 years. That's how different that dirt car with the 4-link, this open wheel modified on the asphalt, when I got into it, a lot of times, I don't know if people can relate, but like when you're stressed or your anxiety, your peripheral will close up on you. The first time I hopped in the asphalt modified, was out of a mini stock, 4-cylinder, you're 350 horsepower, whatever. Now you're running 2450, 2,450 pounds. You've got 740 horsepower. You got only an 8-inch wide tire. I hopped in that thing, and my peripheral was wide open. I never had a problem. I got in that dirt car. It reminded me of how when I was swapping mechanic skills for flight time and ground time, and coming in for my first landings or whatnot, and I'm like all hesitant, and my buddy's there, he's got my back, I trust him 1,000,000%. And we're coming in one time, and I go, "Joe, I can finally see." He goes, "Good, congratulations." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess the stress is gone now," and so the landings and takeoffs were always the fun part, and the landings became fun at that point. But yeah, the more I drive the dirt modified, the more you learn what your actions can relate to the suspension on it, because they twist. The whole car is basically designed to take some type of stress and twist up. Some of the guys, they say, "Oh, well, your left front should be on the ground going down the straightaways." Other guys say, "Oh, well, if your left front's not off the ground, you're not getting forward bite." My opinion is, if you feel that forward bite in your ass, it don't matter if that thing's a foot off the ground or planted in the ground. Forward bite's always been the game out of the corner in any type of racing I've done on an oval. Even in road racing. We used to do the solo events back in the day. We ran an RX-7 in the race prepared over. And you'd get people out there in the autocross events that would bring their street cars and then wreck them on the autocross event and have to figure out how they're going to get it home or get to work Monday. I never jeopardized my income or my family's livelihood for it. So I made a deal. I had a Jeep that I had given to me when I was a kid, and I traded it for this Mazda RX-7, and it was somewhat of a race car. It only had a hoop and 2 kickers. That was all it had, and a seat. So we ended up taking it, and it was called Equip Rapides, I believe it was. Al White, I believe, ran the program out of Hollywood. And it was a blast. I took that same car, because the promoter's name was Pete, out at New Hendry County Speedway, Sugar Land Raceway. And I had heard through the grapevine that they had an RX-7 there running on the dirt track. I'd never heard of a rotary running on a dirt track. So I go out there, and he says, build it and bring it. So at that point, I didn't really know anybody down here. So I hooked up with a guy, Coco Betro, out off of Loxahatchee. He put a roll cage in it, and he put this nice, beautiful boxed X underneath it, thank God. I go out there with that thing, down the back straightaway, never turned going into 3 and 4, hit the wall, rode the top of the wall around the corner, stopped at the pit entry. Larry and his son, I believe, ripped the back bumper off. We went back out. I believe we finished like 2nd or 3rd that night. So we had so many mini stocks back then at Sugar Land, New Hendry, that we had 2 divisions, an A and a B. And you had to win 3 features in the B to move up to the A. So now there's another guy with an RX-7. Well, I had learned some stuff on the road racing with the RX-7. Like, who would have ever thought cutting a pitman arm and extending it 3/4 of an inch would give you a complete full rack left turn in a quarter or a half a turn of the steering wheel. You know, just sway bar tricks, stuff like that. I actually ran Pep Boys Futura tires with road hazard warranties on them for a while. When I moved here from Lake Worth, the Pep Boys manager from there had been transferred to here. I had already had the tires warranted like twice. I go into the store and he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, it's got a gash in the sidewall. He goes, what? I said, all right, I can't lie to you anymore. I said, these are on my dirt track car. He goes, I'll do this one for you, and that's it. But yeah, so we go and we're doing very well with the RX-7. And the thing was loud. Oh my God, was it loud. We had porcelain apex seals in it. When I say we, I mean me, myself, and I. Jap Trick gave me a little help over there in Lake Worth. That thing was so loud, they put, when I got the wins, the feature wins, they said, okay, there was a petition around the pits not allowing me to step up, right? So, I'm like, they say, you can run, but you can't run for points, trophy, or cash. I'm like, screw it, I gotta run, I got the car. Just, they're penalizing me, even though there's another guy with an RX-7 running that just can't get out of his own way. So they added 350 pounds to me, made me put an exhaust on it. I got fed up, went down to Hialeah, met some guys down there, Al Barney and Tim Hunley out of Hollywood, Florida. They built me a car. I went down there. First night, I believe it was, we finished, or we didn't finish, I'm sorry, 8 laps on the car. Engine blows up in front of me. I spin out on turn 2. One guy comes, nails me in the driver's front, knocks me up to the, so I'm facing the outside wall, and then another guy comes on the high side and nailed me right in the passenger's front. We had to half the car at that point. 8 laps. That was my introduction into Hialeah.
Well, Hialeah was a great place
No, it
to
was
learn.
awesome.
Great place to learn. There's a lot of people that moved on to professional ranks from Hialeah.
Absolutely. You had Red Farmer. You had a bunch of them. Weren't some of the Allisons out of there
Yes,
too?
Allison boys were out of there.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, that was another landmark that, you know, should have been saved instead of a Lowe's parking lot. But the taxes, you know, were so overwhelming for the owners. We had gone down there and raced, you know, for free just to help them pay taxes a couple times. I remember doing that. I've always tried to support my tracks. Lately, unfortunately, I haven't been able to go run, but things are looking better. That we should be able to get back out there, and God, it's going to be hot though. Yes, we can race all year round, but at some point for people that work outside every day.
Well, let's keep cutting the trees down.
Yeah, there you
Cut
go.
the trees down for the electric vehicles.
Yeah, they think that cord just, magically appears. But yeah, I'd like to see something happen with the track where, even if you want to call it industrial, make it an R&D place, but incorporate the availability for the public. Sure, there's got to be some programs out there that could get funding for research and development that can involve a racetrack somehow. It's like for years I've worked on waterfront houses, golf course houses, all these trends and whatnot, living like, traditions, the Disney life and crap like that. And I've always said, if you built a housing community with a couple different disciplines of racing connected to it, it would be awesome, but all you see is the wine and cheese road course.